ignition. I wouldn't think it's fuel. What is up, Rad Potential YouTube? I'm Mr. Rad. In today's video, we're going to be rescuing this mildly neglected Mazda RX8. This thing had been sitting behind one of my buddy's houses, not getting driven for quite some time, albeit the history of this car in my group of friends, we basically know it since it was pretty much brand new. So it's not exactly an unknown, completely new, go buy some used car rescue, but this is going to be the most similar car that I can find to rescue for you guys who are wanting to buy a used RX-8 that you would find on Marketplace for cheap. So this is a 2004 winning blue Mazda RX-8. It has over 250,000 miles on it. The brakes, rusted. It's in rough shape, guys. So this thing's been sitting for a while, and it's just, you know, grass, condensation, the paint completely faded. What's actually really funny is that this deck lid is the deck lid off of that RX-8, and the one on that RX-8, notice how terrible the roof is here, and it matches how terrible this deck lid is. So traded out the wing to my buddy because he wanted the wing one, but in rough shape. Okay, this was a really, really good car for a long time. Belonged to my friends down in Nashville, and it's just tired now. But you can just see it's lived its whole life outside. Headlights have been redone a few times. I know it's had a couple different accidents in its life. Interior, of course, on RX-8s, they're mostly always in pretty good shape, which is rad. This one's got some weird like stick-on early 2000s carbon that is peeling, and if there was a feel function on YouTube, like scratch and sniff on the internet, I'm sure the world would be a terrible place, but it just feels terrible. It's horrible. Always a cracked airbag cover, and the steering wheel's in rough shape. So go ahead and pop the hood. Seat's not bad though. I think we got front cover, a couple other parts, because we might have to do an engine in this thing. A nice touring front lip, which is actually from that car as well. But this is a pretty much bone stock car from what I've been told. Oh, it's got hood struts. Upgrades. And it has been just sitting for a long time. So we do have, look like, what, Megan Racing coilovers, mouse hole in the insulation. We can take all that out. It's just nightmare fuel up there. It looks terrible. Rather see the uncleared blue. Stock airbox. That looks a little custom right there. It does have an air conditioning belt, so that's a win. I believe it's got BHR coils. At least it has LS coils. It's got different coils in there. I need these for my cars. Hood props are kind of annoying. But otherwise, your average stock, been sitting for, I'd say, probably 2 to 3 years of not active daily driver duty, if that makes sense. So like, started every once in a while to move it around, but not like super reliable driving it every day. So let's see if it starts. I did leave the keys in it. This thing's kind of rough. At least when I drove it on the trailer a couple weeks ago to get it up here, it wasn't entirely the most stoked to get, let's just say, on the trailer to the shop to ultimately get resurrected. Oh. Come on. There we go. A little bit of a long crank, but not terrible. We are idling. Now is the best time when you do get your car fired back up. Give it a good sniff. See if you can smell coolant. Sometimes it'll be like just fuel-y and flooded. That's kind of what this one likes to do, being super low compression. And honestly, I'm really surprised it started that easy, because I was cranking it for a hot minute getting this thing on the trailer. No crazy noises. Usually these air pumps will make a lot of noise when they start to wear out. All right, ready to go for a ride, Letty? All right, Letty, let's go for a test drive. Come on, jump up. Watch your tail. What'll happen is, since these cars share the reservoir of the brake master cylinder to the clutch, the like little tiny 5/16 line that goes to the clutch master cylinder, it just doesn't quite feed the clutch master cylinder good enough. So whenever things sit, the clutch master will bleed off pressure. There's a little bit of a like a vibration-y misfire I can feel. Oh, hear the brakes grinding. Oh, power steering issue. Come on, fix your life. The power steering is jumping around like crazy. RX8s that are for sale are going to be like this. I'm going to say is they're going to, or at least the ones you want to buy should be like this. Okay, I would buy ones that run, because a running RX8 will let you at least verify that a lot of other things are working. If you buy a non-running RX8, it could have the same problem this one does, which is a super low compression engine, but also have a bunch of other things that are wrong with it. So like in this one's case, we know that the fuel pump works. We generally know that the injectors are okay. Oh, don't die. Come on, there we go. And we generally know that the ignition works, right? So you can eliminate some things of that regard. If this dies, we're pretty much stuck because it does not restart hot. We're gonna have to sit on the side of the road for 10 minutes. After driving Buzz, the turbo RX8, stock RX8s are so slow. But speed is always relative. These are still really good cars. So that little power steering issue, you'll start to feel something like that whilst you're driving it like mid-corner. It won't be able to decide how much force to put in while you're turning. So it'll like be hard and then easy and then hard and then easy. This one's a weird one to diagnose because it doesn't actually throw a power steering light for this, versus that last RX8 that I did the comprehensive rebuild on. When the power steering would act up on it, you just have no power steering. So it wasn't really that bad, it was just a heavy wheel. It didn't become unpredictable. Alright, Letty, you're gonna want to sit down. Also, on RX8s that sit for a while or you disconnect the battery, especially look at the steering wheel. Especially low compression ones, they will not idle for a while because it has to relearn its idle. So it's like it's going to drop down, the drive-by-wire is going to catch itself, and it's going to die a bunch. So especially if you have hot start issues, you're definitely going to get stranded with cheap RX8s. Don't die. It really wants to die. Oh, I don't want to. Oh, come on, clutch. I have to bleed the clutch too while we're in it. While we're at it. Okay. What I really don't want to do is shut this off outside the shop, because if I do, I gotta wait like an hour to start it back up to get it back in here. So we're in the shop now. I'm just gonna turn it off like normal, and we're gonna see if this thing fires back up and how long it has to crank to get running again. So we're off. Y'all saw it was fully up to temp. This is gonna be your typical RX8 hot start, and I'm not gonna touch the gas. So I don't know if it's gonna start. I might have to give it some gas to start it, but this is like, it's wore out hot start. Oh, clutch pedal. It just cranks and cranks and cranks and cranks and cranks and cranks. And it just, It's just not gonna start. There's no way. Full deflood. So you can hear I've got the pedal floored now. It doesn't have any fuel. It shuts the injectors off. Let the pedal out. Roll into the throttle. Oh, come on, baby. You know you want it. It's just not gonna start. There's no way. So whenever you're buying one of these and you go for a test drive, 2 recommendations. 1, shut it off in front of the guy you're buying it from, so that way when you try to start it and it doesn't start, you can negotiate a cheaper deal. You're gonna have to sit there with him for a little bit while it cools off before you drive it home, but hey, it won't restart. Negotiate a little bit on the price. Be a shrewd negotiator. Second thing, while you're test driving it, if you're running the car down the road, simply throw it in neutral, shut the car off at like 40 or 50 miles an hour. Don't like shut it off to where the steering wheel locks though, but click it back, click it forward, the car's off, clutch in, try to start it on the starter. Keep in mind, you're still like running, you know, at speed. If it doesn't start on the starter, then you can just put it back in gear, let the clutch out, and it'll start back up. Now, if you have an automatic, none of that applies to you. Just stick shift stuff. So let's see, will it start again? We'll give it, you know, that whatever I rambled for, 1.5 minutes. Come on, baby girl, let's go. Let's go. You know you want it. Come on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Dang, it was trying. Last shot. Okay, so it still didn't start. And that means this RX8 needs an engine. So should we compression test this thing before we take it apart? I think we should. Man, the hood things get me every time. You look, pop in, it goes, I don't have to lift it. For the sake of science, we have to know the compression data on an engine that doesn't run. What is the minimum compression for an RX8 to run when cold, but not start when hot? Basically, this is it. This car has the clutch safety switch, so I have to keep that depressed. All right, so y'all heard the whooshes. I have both trailing plugs out, so the front rotor and the rear. The compression tester's in the rear rotor currently because it's the easiest one to get to. But what I wanted you guys to listen for is those nice even whooshes. There's not one in there that's dead, like right? There's not a miss. So our compression on the rear rotor is 77, 84, 74. That is the corrected numbers, and the uncorrected numbers are 60, 66, and 58, and we're cranking at 185 RPM. So I would say it's desperately in need of a rebuild. The engine is still relatively cool right now. I didn't want to burn my hands, so I let it cool off. Sorry guys for the YouTube cut scene where it felt like it was instant, but it is cooled off. So your hot compression is probably going to be 5 or 6 PSI lower than that. So 77, 80, 74, we'd probably see in the high 60s and the high 70s for that one in the 80s, right? So let's do the front rotor just so we know, and then we yank this engine out. The front rotor, 85, 93, 83 corrected. The uncorrected results, and it's cranking very slow as you can hear. 178 RPM cranking, 66, 72, 61. So whenever you have a very slow cranking engine, I would tend to err on the side of overinflated corrected values. Okay, this is gonna be a hot take right here. Trust me. Whenever you compression test these engines and your starter is weak and it's cranking slow and your battery is dying and inevitably your car's been sitting for forever, this little tester, amongst all the other ones, does math to try to normalize that number. Now, as you slow the cranking speed down, the corrected value is going to get higher because the torque from the starter is less, thus generating less compression in the engine as you're cranking it. So there is a function of like how hard the rotor hits the compression tester to then how much compression it generates. All right, so the uncorrected values being 66, 72, 63, and the corrected ones being, you know, in the 80s. The 80s would be kind of acceptable that this engine should run. These are cold numbers, so like I said just a second ago, the hot numbers would probably be 5 to 8 psi less. Now, with that being said, could this be drivable for a while in the sense of I bought a budget RX8 and it's my only car and I need it to run and whatever. Yeah, you could drive this to work, park it in the morning, work for 8 hours, not go anywhere for lunch, and when you come to go home, it's gonna start. However, if you stall it at a stop sign in front of a bunch of people you're trying to impress with your real nice RX8, it's not gonna restart. So, to me, we gotta rebuild the engine. So I'm gonna yank this engine out and I have another engine sitting over here ready to go back in this car. So removing the engine in an RX8 is so easy, guys. If you're new to cars, new to projects, grab you a Harbor Freight toolkit. You're going to use your 10, your 8, 12, 14, 17 millimeter. The whole thing's going to come apart. Just set your stuff out to the side. It'll generally only go back in one place. And it looks intimidating because it's a tiny engine, but trust me. And just like that, I'm ready to lift this engine out of here. So it still looks like there's a ton of stuff on the engine, but trust me, it's disconnected from everything. You've got transmission harness that goes down the transmission, starter wiring, and all that stuff is all of this right here. You just fold it up, it goes to the battery, which is right in this location. This car's air conditioning did work, so I'm not gonna discharge the AC compressor. It's way easier if you do take the AC compressor, like lines off and take it out. But for me, I'm gonna leave the AC compressor in here. So the compressor will just sit here under the ABS unit and the engine will come out this side. I've got all the engine mount bolts loose. The header is loose from the mid pipe. It will stay on the engine. We've got to lift the engine up a smidge, pull the engine mount off the engine itself because they're too wide for the frame rails. When these cars got built at the factory, they were like assembled the rear subframe with the power plant frame with the front subframe, and then they would just set the body on it. So technically the engine would get put in from the bottom, but we're taking it out the top. So all that's done. And then also, lastly, there's an oil cooler line up under here. It is this one. Make sure you get that disconnected. And then an oil cooler line that goes out into this fender well. If you have questions about removing your RX8's engine, I have a fully in-depth, crazy comprehensive video on an RX8 engine rebuild. You should go check that one out if you think you're going to miss another bolt doing this to your own car. But for the sake of this one, yank this thing right out of here. About the only time this gets tricky is actually lifting the engine. However, if me and my buddies can use a drive shaft from a minivan to lift one of these out at a junkyard, you guys could get this out in your driveway. So pull the engine out, pop all the accessories off, strip it down. We're going to shove all this stuff on the new engine. And just like that, the RX8 is engineless. You're also going to notice that the floor is specifically a little bit cleaner than it was because I grabbed my pressure washer and I just pressure washed and blasted everything while we had this apart because dirty cars are just kind of annoying. So a few things for you guys to look out for while you're taking your engines out of this thing. One, this little ground strap right here will make you test the tensile strength of it. You will forget this when you remove your RX8 engine if you're ever going to do this in your life. Also, finagling around the AC compressor is a pain in the rear. Helps to get all the wiring out of the way. That's my little tips and tricks for this video. Like I said earlier, I do have a full video for the tips and tricks on doing this exact thing. So, here's the old janky engine. Turns out it is a Mazda remanufactured engine, which is rad. I know this car, in its original life, when it got purchased, because this is my buddy Charles's car, it was his daughter's daily driver for years and years and years. So when this got purchased, it had a mileage discrepancy, and they had to have like the cluster changed or something like that. So it already had like 60,000 miles on it. Got the cluster changed or whatever. It has 200 and some change thousand miles on it now. So it's on, like, I guess this would mean its third engine, which is pretty rad for RX8s just to see cars get driven that long, you know? I don't know. That's the crusty junk one. And let me show you the fresh one. So this is an engine that you would go out and just purchase. We just picked this up. It's a good used parts engine rebuild, okay? It looks decent. Not too bad. we're going to be the first ones to run it, so we'll check it out. I know it's got aftermarket Apex seals in it. Other than that, who knows what new parts or used parts are in it. It's just a used backyard budget rebuilt engine. So I went ahead and took the liberty to throw my flywheel on this thing. Also had to put the water pump and stuff, or at least this is a good water pump that I had laying around here. Idler pulley from this one because it looks brand new. The thermostat from this one because it looked better than the one that I had on a front cover laying around. So this thing is ready to get dressed up, and I wanted to show you guys some super rad stuff that RX8s have. So in your RX8 intake manifold, you have these little valves. It's like VTEC for rotaries, basically, if you're a Honda guy. So when you floor it in your RX8 at X RPM, this little valve right here, which is stuck. This one is called the SSV. I did not want to have to take that apart. I've got to take that apart now. So the SSV, this one in the middle, it's like a barrel with holes in it. See it right here? It would open and allow more airflow to come in to the lower secondary ports, okay? Back here, secondary shutter valve, SSV. Up here, this is called the VDI. You can see that open. Variable dynamic intake. What that does is it like brings the two intake runners together so that the airflow is more normalized, I guess. It still is, I think, just the primary ports. No, it's primaries and then also the SSV ports. So these valves open. And then you see these weird barrel looking things, which I was saying is VTEC. On the back of these intake manifolds is a little electric motor. And when that electric motor gets triggered to turn on, it spins this, which turns a little rack and pinion in here and opens the auxiliary ports, which are your 6th ports, your 5th and 6th ports. So this, because it's a stick shift car, has the 232 or whatever horsepower rated engine, which it's not going to even make close to that. The best I've seen out of most of these is like 150 to 170. If you do a lot of, you know, catback, tune, porting, you might crack 200 out of a Renesis. But, you know, prove me wrong in the comments, guys. We've dynoed a lot of these around here. So these open up on the top end. Well, bam, you get all the airflow, and that's exactly what we've got here. So I'm going to get to dressing this engine back up. We got to put the oil metering pump from the car back on this, all those oil injectors, the intake manifold, the header, the upper intake, and then we'll be ready to stab this thing back in the car, and ideally it just fires right up. We can rip it around a little bit, and this thing is ready to basically get some miles put on it. This is one of those, like, let's see, you know, do a test of a used engine in a known car and see how things run kind of deal. So, and it helps to, you know, bring in a little bit of some fun, like engine rebuild service, to then I can reinvest all of that into my FD RX8 right here, which is this RX-7 that now has RX-8 parts and an RX-8 engine in it and an RX-8 dash and an RX-8 everything. You should subscribe to the channel and go check out that build. But for now, we're going to get back to stacking, or I guess dressing up, this Renesis engine to go into the blue RX-8. Alright, so I couldn't just not show you this, guys, because this is atrocious. This is a running car. Look at how gnarly dirty the SSV is. So the reason this is going to be dirty like this, okay, in any of these RX-8s is carbon buildup comes from not driving your RX-8 like a sports car. Alright, we've all seen Ford versus Ferrari, where he's like, well, if you drive your car like a whatever, you need to drive this like a sports car. You need to keep the revs up. And then the guy gets all mad and he's like, oh, you don't think I know how to drive my own car? Da, da, da. Okay. RX-8s are meant to live above 5,500 RPM. Guys, just rip them. They're not like going to blow up any more likely if you're ripping it or if you're cruising it around town like a grandma. Okay. This is from cruising around town like a grandma. You got to rip that thing. You got to get this thing hot. You got to get all the air, all the fuel burning coming through here. And you really got to keep the carbon out of these deals. So I'm going to clean all this. And it's going to look brand new. I had already cleaned the intake. I don't know why I didn't check to see. Like, look at this. Crunch. I don't know why I didn't check to see if the SSV worked. I cleaned the VDI. 6 ports. Looks mint. This isn't mint. We got to get this nice. Back to cleaning. I would say half the reason a lot of used RX-8s don't make a lot of power is because these valves are full of carbon and stuck, and they can't actually let the engine consume all the air that it was designed to consume. So listen to this thing click now that we're ready to go. In addition, if you buy one of these cars and you hear it clicking at idle, it's most likely that SSV actuator, and you can actually put a little zip tie on it, not to hold it closed, but to dampen the click. So dropping the engine back in here can be a little tricky. It's easier to take the header off, but I just put the header on because I've fought this a bunch of times and kind of know how it works. The little strap on the left helps twist the engine. Easy peasy, engine mounts, ready to rip. The thing looks nice, all down in there, all clean, and ideally, fires right up. And just like that, I've got my Renesis engine back in the RX8. We're ready to start this thing up. Before we do that, I need to make sure that we at least crank this for just a bit to get some oil pressure, get some oil flowing. So this engine was built a while back, not built like right over there and ready to go in the car, so who knows how much assembly lube or corrosion or dust, dirt, who knows what is in that thing. So just want to kind of be sure. I don't know that I'm going to see oil pressure on the gauge, but typically after like a minute of cranking, we should be good. So, assuming everything's hooked up correctly, battery connected, the car didn't burn down, all the grounds are on, everything should be good there. Where's my little pliers at? They have run off. Got my little pliers. We're gonna pull the fuel pump fuse. Oh, magnet. And is it that one or is it that one? This one, which is the injectors. And what that's gonna do, we pull those same fuses whenever we compression test it, but that's gonna let me crank this and it not start. If I recall from just the other day, if I recall correctly, this has a clutch safety switch. Ooh. Clutch pedal. I probably ought to bleed that clutch while I'm sitting here. And it's already up in the air and we're like just in the right spot. Okay, so there's no water in this. We're just gonna crank it. Oil pressure first. Hopefully it sounds fine. That sounds alright. Cranking a little slow. It is a 04, so I don't think it has the fancy starter. And this is like a EverStart battery, not some fancy red top. That is the I need to get a battery charger sound right there. That's probably pretty good, about a minute. Put our fuses back in, leave the battery jumper set up exactly how it is so that we got that fast crank. Where's that one go? Right there. Now, in a perfect world, our backyard rebuild, unknown, documented, who knows what happened to an engine, is gonna start. Let me tell you, the most inconvenient thing, my only complaint about RX8s, I love these cars, is that annoying beeper, but also the doors open up on a slight angle, and if you're parked like this, like up on a hill or something, you get attacked by the doors. They'll just swing closed on you and like hit you in the leg, and it's annoying. Okay. In theory, it should just start without me having to give it any gas, but who knows? Prime pulse. Just kind of priming the fuel pump. All right, it's an RX8, starts every time. Come on, baby girl. It's an RX8, starts every time. It's definitely just not cranking fast at all, it's just cranking really slow. So the fun misconception about rotaries is how fast the engine actually spins. So the crankshaft, or your eccentric shaft basically, is at like a 1:3 ratio with the rotor. So the rotor itself when you're at, let's say, 9,000 RPM on the crankshaft, the rotor is only turning 3,000 RPM. So it's actually moving really slow. That's why rotary engines need a super fast cranking speed to get started. Come on, starts every time. I need more cranks, I need more speeds. We gotta put this on a battery charger and then try again. Some horsepower through these jumper cables. Come on. We're gonna get all the cranking here. So here how it stopped wanting to start right there. That was no fuel. Hold the throttle 100%, shuts fuel injectors off. All right. Start. RX8 starts every time. Really? Come on. RX8 starts every time. RX8 starts every time. A used engine rebuild, it's probably only going to make 85, 80 PSI on its best day. So it's going to take a little bit to get it started. It says 100% on the battery charger. Let's see if it's actually gonna start. I guess we might have just made it worse, you know, putting a rebuilt engine in here, even though the other engine was definitely in need of rebuild. All right, come on. I just need you to start. RX8 start every time. Man, really? This is called the, usually Mr. Rad edits this out, but the thinking, trying to figure out what's wrong phase. So we've got, obviously, crank. We've got the do-do-do, so we've got spark. When I hold the gas pedal down to cut off the injectors, it stops trying to start. So we know we're getting fuel. Why won't it just start? This engine hasn't been ran yet, so it could have like apex seals super glued together that are stuck. I don't know, comment below. Why isn't it starting? I mean, throttle body's plugged in, that's plugged in. Solenoids are plugged in, air pump's plugged in, not that that matters. MAF's plugged in, sensor here's plugged in. We got no vacuum leaks, we got all that stuff capped. All the vacuum lines look good underneath there. Literally on an RX8, there's only 3 vacuum lines. Super simple. Coolant lines to the throttle body are hooked up, but there's no water. Booster's hooked up. I mean, I missed this coolant line to the back of the block, but that's no big deal. I can just put that on here real quick. Okay. O2 sensors hooked up. All the grounds on the top of the engine are good. The fuel pressure... The fuel line is hooked up to the fuel line, and the EMAP, or EVAP, not EMAP, exhaust manifold pressure, is hooked up there. The plug wires are hooked up correctly, and it looks like they are all installed all the way on the coils. So we're good in that regard. Knock sensors plugged in, spark plugs are all tight, engine mounts are all tight. That's the whole list. That's everything that's required to put an RX8 together. Why won't you just run? That means low compression, bad fuel injector, but I put cleaned, new, I guess they're not new, but cleaned and flow tested fuel injectors that I had done. Saved them for, you know, one of my cars. We've stuck them in here just so that they're good. Team no start. Okay. My solution that I'm thinking up right now, as I've been rambling, is I want to try to get some oil into this engine somehow. So oil will make it start. It's going to bump the compression up. I don't have a way to roll start this by myself. Otherwise, I would try that. Yeah. APV's plugged in. Everything's plugged in. It should just run. Why didn't it just run? Spark plugs? Maybe pull the plugs out and see how flooded it is? We'll just start there. This will run. It's an RX8, it has to run. Duly noted, make sure you unhook the other plugs while you're gonna deflood / crank without the plugs. Even though I was holding the pedal down to turn the fuel off, the ignition was still on. Sometimes we miss things. That was that crazy weird noise you heard. Was it trying to start with no leading plugs in? After that weird hiatus of it almost starting with the plugs out, will it actually just start? Come on. It's an RX8, starts every time. We could be out of gas. It is like at 1/8 of a tank, but I doubt it. All right, so I just changed the coils out for a set of stock ones that came off of my green car before we put the other REW engine in it, and obviously we have the same exact situation. Injectors are plugged in correctly. I label them every single time I take them off. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the secondary, 1 and 2 for the primary. That will give you some fits. If you mess that up, I might crack the... I really want to take the upper intake manifold off and dump a bunch of oil in this thing, and then it'll start. Does that sound like a plan? I think that's the plan. Now it should fire right up. Pour some oil in the intake, and your low compression RX8 becomes high compression. All right, we're definitely gonna have to open my garage door for this, because if it starts, it's gonna be smoky. Very smoky. Good thing is, we've spent a bunch of the day trying to just put this car together, so it's evening time, and it's not super hot outside. Okay. Mr. Rad's magic hands, the rotary wizard, let's get this thing started. Please, you just have to run. It's an RX8. Starts every time. Come on. Told you guys it would start. Got a little bit of a misfire. I can feel it when I'm revving it. Hear that little bit of a misfire? Ignition? I wouldn't think it's fuel. Man, it is always just funny. The oil trick works every time. Every time! Okay, so it's running. I need to put coolant in it. I don't really want to turn it off since I did get it started, so we're going to top this baby off with water, and hopefully everything's good. I don't think my mid-pipe's completely tight, so I need to check that because it's kind of making a little bit of exhaust leak note. But I don't really like that misfire, but I want to run it hot enough to be able to like really cook all the assembly lube out of the engine. So I guess let's make sure we're making oil pressure, which we are, so we should be good to go. Coolant. Alright, it sounds pretty good up on the pipe. Oh, it died. Okay, an RX8. It starts every time. Will it restart? Come on. And this is 100% why you shouldn't rebuild an engine with used, like, average-ish, below average housings and parts. So this engine that I'm like, backyard rebuild, you know, we picked it up, whatever. Okay, so about a month ago, Charles and I stacked this engine up at his house just on a Saturday morning or whatever with random stuff we had lying around. Figured it would be better than what's in here, and we were wrong. It is not better than what's in here. I didn't film building this engine because it was just stacking up another Renesis engine at Charles's house. I didn't really know if he was going to be putting the engine in this car at that point or if I was. And now I just spent a whole day, 2 days putting an RX8 together that now doesn't start, and it started before I took it apart, so we know that the car itself isn't the problem, just like I said at the beginning of the video. Well, I don't know if the video ends here, but I'm frustrated at this point in the video, and I'm gonna eat some dinner, which doesn't mean anything to you guys, and then I want to come back and look at this again, and we're gonna see, yeah, we're just gonna see. We'll be back in a second. Well, guys, I got the depression tester out. And I'm not stoked with the results. I'll put the pictures on the screen, but let's just say we only had 2 rotor faces that were actually good. The front rotor, which is what I've got now, is 54, 54, 52. It's a 100% great lesson for myself and for you guys that you should compression test your used engines before you buy them. Unless you heard it running and heard it start up and heard all of that, which, you know, we obviously just stacked this up on a, you know, Sunday afternoon or whatever, and out of stuff we had laying around, and it didn't work. It didn't work. So I've lost 15 to 20 hours of my time putting this thing together. You know, taking an engine out, cleaning the engine bay, cleaning the intake, cleaning all that, which had to be done anyways, but now at least I know how tight the bolts are for taking this thing completely back apart and then taking the engine, and I will take the other engine, the one that I took out, the reman engine, the one we compression tested at the beginning of the video that has way better compression than what's in there, back to Charles. He'll take that stuff apart, figure it out, and once we have a plan, we'll stack up another engine. I'll probably bring you guys along for the ride for that one. So let's drain the brand new coolant, the brand new oil out of this car and pull the motor out, and then I'm gonna shove the car out into the great wide wilderness where we found it, and we'll come back to it with a better engine. Let's keep growing. And just like that, the engine is back out and gone. So last night I pulled this engine back out immediately after I finished the clip where it was like we compression tested and it had no compression, and yanked it out. And then this morning I left super early and drove down to Nashville to drop the engine off with Charles, who owns the car, and the original engine out of this car, that reman engine, so that he can take those apart, clean stuff, figure it out, and then I'll go down there at some point and we'll stack up another engine in order to finish the budget RX8 rescue. So that's gonna be the end of today's video. This was like one of those things. Last night when I got this out, I was so defeated because RX8s are so easy, guys. Like, there's nothing special to these cars. They're super fun and super good and super simple to work on. It just, the fact of the matter is, because of how cheap they are, a lot of people cut corners, and myself and Charles included. We tried to budget our way into a car that ran, and we failed, which happens sometimes. So that's going to be the end of today's video. I was unable to rescue this cheap RX8, but we're going to come back for part 2. So you guys should subscribe and go check out the Rad Potential Patreon. On Patreon, if you have an RX8 like this, what I do on there is it's called Rad Solutions. You hop on there, become a member, and you can ask me any question about getting your car running. I film videos to answer your questions, okay? Without the Patreon members, none of the videos, none of some of these projects, none of this stuff would be possible. So I have to give a huge thanks to those guys for sticking with me and helping me get all this stuff going. So with that, live a life you don't need a vacation from, keep it rad, and we'll see y'all in the next one. All right, well, blue RX8. I get to shove it outside. It gets to sit in the sun for a while. Not that it's, you know, not used to that. And then it's time to kind of switch gears and get this running.